Police Psychics. Find me.
Hello everyone, this is Kelly Snyder with Valerie and with Find Me, the Police Psychics and More, produced and broadcast by Zeus Radio Network for Hear Women Talk. Today's guest we have Dave Campbell. He is a psychic medium and forensic astrologer, and welcome to the show, Dave.
Welcome, thank you for having me.
Just before we get into talking with Dave, I did want to mention to everyone that you can call in with some of your questions today at 914-338-1186, 914-338-1186. Hi, Val.
Hi,
there?
Kelly. Yes, I am. And hi, Dave. And we are opening the chat room at www.hearwomentalk.com, and you can get on and ask questions there as well. And Kelly, as you know Dave quite well, but for those that don't know Dave as well, Dave, you're a very fascinating guy. You've been a professional psychic medium and astrologer with over 20 years of experience, and you wrote the book Forensic Astrology, Solving Crimes with Astrology, which I'm sure is a fascinating subject as well for everybody today. You're also a contributor to author of the book Find Me, which is about the group of psychics, astrologers, mediums, and law enforcement canine search and rescue that is dedicated to assisting families and the police in finding missing people, of which Kelly Snyder, right here on this program, is the founder. Hey, Kelly. And Dave is also a member of the Forever Family Foundation, which is foreverfamilyfoundation.org, which is a medium certification group, and we'll ask you about that in a minute, the Windbridge Institute, and your specialty is forensic astrology. Please explain that for us, Dave. What is forensic astrology?
Well, it is exactly that. It's solving crimes with astrology. And most people don't understand how you can do that. They think that just the sun sign that you read in the paper is astrology, which is nothing close to that.
That's right. What Gemini is doing today is not a clue.
No, it's very detailed. It's with all the planets and what signs they were in on the day you were born, and it shows your astrological DNA, which shows your aptitudes, your behaviors, and your potential for either good or bad, depending on how you use the energy. And it sets up, there's a lot of patterns that continuously happen in, like, serial killers' charts, and so it's really easy to identify that. And also, there's always a match between victim and perpetrator. And it's just amazing, and I've studied thousands and thousands of charts for this, and it's very surreal in how exact it is. And even further, there's a group of asteroids out in space, in the asteroid belt, and they all have names of people, places, things, mythological ideologies, and they have meaning, and if you plug them into the chart, even the name of the suspect and the name of the perpetrator, they will line up and match. So it's very fascinating.
Oh my! Now,
Dave, how do you come up with GPS coordinates using your technique?
There's a technique in astrology. It's called astro mapping, and astrologers are always been really good at doing longitude and latitude, because that's how we have to figure out where you were born and the time of your birth. And so then they figured out a way in the 70s how to, like, draw the lines at your time of birth where they would be on a location. And if I'm looking at your chart and following the lines, like, say, Pluto would be like a missing person or a perpetrator, that I could find it on the map, and it gives the exact coordinates. Like, if it lines up between two people's charts, or if I'm doing a different system, I can find the chart that represents you, and kind of look on the map and find the exact coordinates, the GPS.
Remember the Terry Bowers sock when her mother went missing? What was that, 4 or 5 years ago?
Right. Yeah. We all done.
Yeah. I mean, we used that technique because I think you'll remember we took your coordinates and we went out with the tribal police because part of where you had sent us was on tribal land, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but we literally were on a straight line heading towards where she actually was found, but we stopped a half mile before, and I don't remember why we stopped. I think it was because of the terrain, number one, and number two, your coordinates ended about a half a mile before her exact location. But the significance of this, if I remember correctly, is it's getting you in the general vicinity, but it doesn't necessarily, when you give those coordinates, it doesn't say here it is within 10 feet, correct? Or am I off a little on that?
No, absolutely. It's giving you the direction, and it gives you, this is the vicinity, and then you have to use your other skills as well once you get in that area. But Arizona's a pretty big place, and everybody said she was like by Tucson. She wasn't nowhere near Tucson, and the coordinates were exactly in the vicinity within half a mile. That's pretty good, I think, out of the state of Arizona.
I think that's unbelievable in a desert situation as well.
Yeah.
It's not like it's next to that building or it's next to this particular landmark, so that's quite
right. And then I remember giving other landmark sightings, and there were, in fact, those sightings around the area, which is possibly what she was seeing, because remember, I'm also a medium and clairvoyant, and
yes.
I was seeing some pictures. So that's part of it, too, as I use my intuition as well as the astrology tool to kind of guide me into, and sometimes I think they guide me.
You have in your book, Dave, that one of the things you can pinpoint is the time. You do a chart of the time someone was last seen. How does that work? If a victim were last seen, how would you do a chart of that?
Well, it gives me a lot of clues. I just pull up the chart just like it was that birthday of the time, like if it was 10:15 on today, I would pull up a chart for that and where they were located, and that gives me a clue because it tells me what was happening at that location at that time and what happened just prior to it. I can kind of go backwards and look, or I can see where it's headed towards the future. So it just gives me kind of a feeling of what kind of energy was going on at that time, whether it be very violent or very harmonious. It could be totally peachy, and I would ignore it then because, if that was the case.
That would not be part of your clues then, if that were the case.
But it wouldn't be. But if it's somebody's missing, it's usually not peachy. It's usually it's very telling. It's very, gives me a good clue of what the energy looks like. And then if I do connect that with their natal chart, it will really synchronize what's going on with them and what it really links up the time of that moment and space, and it puts it right to them, and it gives me a lot more information. So in and of itself, it gives me a lot of clues. I remember when I did this for Lacey Peterson when she was missing, and nobody knew where she was. I picked it in the ocean based on the time she was last seen, and voila, 7
there
months
she
later,
was.
whatever, there she is in the ocean.
Yes.
So that's a technique called horary, which means the hour of the moment. And there's lots of different uses for horary, but you can ask any question, and I pull up a chart or cast a chart, and the thought is that the universe already has the answer. It's called synchronicity, and the planets are always telling us, the exact answer. And if we have a question pop into our mind at any given time, you ask the question at that exact moment, or write down the time of it and where you're at, and I can interpret it and get an answer.
Dave, does that, when you mentioned her being in the water, I'm a little confused. Did that, the time that you mentioned, is that the time that she was last seen, or how does that part?
It was last seen recorded on TV. The news time when it was December 24th, and Scott said that he had seen her at 9:24 a.m., I think, if I remember right, and a neighbor reported it, and it was in the news, so it was an official time, even if it was probably a lie because of Scott.
Right.
There's no such thing as an accident. I pulled it up. I actually probably could see that it wasn't true, but you can still see what really happened, even if he's lying.
Yeah.
You can see that you know, it captures everything. It doesn't. It just said where she really was.
Well, the whole thing with that is partially energy. When you're capturing his lie, you're still zeroing in on the target based on the lie. Is that correct? Through the energy?
Right, exactly. So it doesn't matter if he was lying or not.
Okay, then how did you, from that point on, how did you determine that she was in water? What gave you that clue? That's where I was headed with this.
Well, the planet that was represented her in that chart, and there's a system that says, this is the person you're asking about. It was in the 8th house, which is the house of death, so I knew she was dead already, and it was in Scorpio, which is deep water, and there was also an intercepted sign. The next sign in that house was Sagittarius, which is like the shore. So I knew she was in deep water. I knew that she was represented in the house of death, so I already knew that was too late for, success in finding her alive. But and much as I do that often, almost every case, I see that first and can determine really quickly if we're looking for a live person or not.
Right.
It was actually the planet that represented her within the sign Scorpio, which is a water sign.
Aha. Well, now, do you use these same techniques? I know one of the things, again, that you brought up in your book is you can pinpoint and eliminate suspects. How do you eliminate a suspect?
Like, say I was looking at, say, a murder, and their chart doesn't even line up with anything whatsoever in the victim's chart. There's no connection. There's no synastry or relationship to each other. It's not going to happen. That just can't happen. It wouldn't be. So I'd eliminate them. And it would have to be, like, the violent aspects would be connected. And
so if there weren't any, they couldn't be
it wouldn't
the
happen.
suspect.
There wouldn't be no connection. And what I found through doing this is there is no, it's the synchronicity, the energy is already there between both people, and it just connects, and it shows that in the bigger picture, it's hard to even, you wonder, like, which came first. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you use the term, and I know we're going to be back in a moment, but you use the term astrological DNA, which is a very fascinating thing, and I hope we'll get a chance to talk more about it.
Okay. Sure.
And we're going to be back to our program. It's time for a little break, and we'll be back with this program and with Zeus Radio Network. Talk with you soon.
This is Dottie Laster, the host of Trafficked, an hour-long discussion about human trafficking in the United States. Join me as we meet guests from around the world and locally who are combating the fastest-growing crime in the world. Join us every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Hear Women Talk Radio.
When you're in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, home of Zeus Broadcast Network and Hear Women Talk, there's a wonderful adventure that you should try. Carolina Safari Jeep Tours.
Go to www.carolinasafari.com and check out Carolina Safari. Mention Hear Women Talk and get a discount from Carolina Safari Jeep Tours.
See another side of Myrtle Beach. Get wild with wildlife. Explore history, nature, and mystery on a Carolina Safari Jeep Tour.
Hi folks, this is private investigator Vicki Childs, host of the Vicki Childs Show on Hear